Part 1, production number 1873, date recorded 4th of the 2th, 75, take 1.
Greetings and welcome to Aquarius, which comes to you from the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, on a very special occasion. It was back in 1952 that a young Australian singer named Joan Sutherland made her debut in this house. She'd come to Britain with a scholarship, having won the title of Australia's finest singer, which indeed she was. And for the next few years, she appeared in many roles here. And it was in 1958 that she really hit the operatic headlines. The opera was Lucia di Lammermoor, and the critics immediately hailed her as another Melba. And really, she's not stopped singing all over the world ever since. She's one of the age's finest operatic prima donnas. Now, recently, Joan Sutherland returned to Covent Garden to appear in La Traviata. And it was here at Christmas that the terrible news came of the disaster which hit Darwin in northern Australia, the tornado which more or less laid the city waste. Now, she and her husband, the conductor Richard Bonning, couldn't get back to Australia, but they let it be known here that they very much wanted to take part in some charity operatic concert in order to raise funds for the relief of Darwin. And when they heard this news, the Royal Philharmonic offered their services, and so did the staff of this wonderful opera house, the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, and finally a television crew from London Weekend volunteered their services so that a big donation could be made to the fund and we could bring you highlights of this midnight gala. Well, it's getting on for 11:30 now. The curtain went down on the Royal Ballet about half an hour ago. There's been the most fantastic hassle to get things ready, but in a moment or two, His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, will be arriving, and the High Commissioner for Australia, many other distinguished guests. So join us now for the midnight gala at the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden. The first music at the gala, the national anthems of Britain and Australia, played by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra on the stage at the Opera House. This is the Australian national anthem, Advance Australia Fair. Conductor Richard Bonning, the Australian husband of Joan Sutherland, and the gala is introduced by another celebrated Australian exile, the actor Keith Michell, who was born in Adelaide, came to Britain 20 years ago. Keith Michell.
Your Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor this evening to welcome you all here and to thank you for supporting the Darwin Appeal Fund. On my way to the theatre this afternoon, I heard one passerby say to another, "Oh, Darwin, that was just a shanty town." In fact, Darwin was a city with a population of 45,000 people. And Christmas Eve, 1974, will be remembered in the history of Australia for the sudden, shocking destruction of the entire city. An Australian journalist who was there wrote that houses exploded upwards, outwards, and downwards, with the debris slicing through everything. Almost 50 people were killed, hundreds injured, and thousands dispossessed. It is the noise of Tracy that the survivors remember most vividly. The whine increasing to a constant shriek, on and on over 7 hours, deadening censors so that many didn't notice a roof go or a wall fall in. Some, even days after, could not sleep for the sound of the wind in the now silent city, where even birds, flies and mosquitoes had flown and be blown away. Australians have known natural disasters before. Bushfires are an annual event, flood and drought. But they have never had such a disaster as this. And that people in England, so many thousand miles away, should give thought to helping at such a time is something which I'm sure every Australian here and over there would be profoundly grateful for and proud about. And I'm sure that they would want me to thank you on their behalf and everyone concerned with tonight's concert. Miss Joan Sutherland, whose idea it was, she instigated the whole idea. The magnificent Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, without whom the idea could not have happened. The entire Royal Opera House staff and stage staff. The London Weekend television crew and Decca Recording Company, all of whom have donated their services tonight.
And now we move on to the eagerly awaited entrance of Joan Sutherland. Joan Sutherland has chosen to sing a scene from Donizetti's opera Maria Stuarda, Mary Stuart, the tragic story of Mary Queen of Scots. In this scene, Mary is walking in the park of Fotheringay Castle, her prison, with her companion. And this moment of unexpected freedom and her delight in the natural beauty of her surroundings remind Mary of her beloved France, and she sings of her longing to be able to return home. Margareta Elkins, another fine Australian singer, takes the part of Anna.
Tu
when Mary hears the sound of hunting horns, she's terrified. And the fear is at the thought of meeting Queen Elizabeth, in whose hands lies her fate. In this final section of the scene, Mary prays that Elizabeth will keep the English throne to which she's been laying claim and leave her to live in seclusion and peace.
Nella pace del mesto riposo, di nuovo spavento, io la chiesa di vederlo non oso, tu coraggio non sento. Resti sul trono ruota, il suo sguardo non mi sa lontano. Troppo sono io disprezzato, t'ho gettato per me e per tu.
And that thrilling top D seems to bring the house down at Covent Garden. Music by Donizetti from his opera Maria Stuart, and a tremendous ovation for Joan Sutherland, conductor, her husband Richard Bonning, also singing with her Heather Margareta Elkins. And now some light relief.